Hey folks, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements, I illustrate them, I publish them online, and I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition for the past 5 years. There's a slew of links in the description down below. You can see on DMsGuild.com where I publish my work. Be welcome to check out the free previews. If you think they're cool, let me know. We've been focusing our attention on on the Spelljammers Combat and Exploration supplement. Hey folks, my name is Phil. Hey folks, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing game supplements, I illustrate them, I publish them online, and I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition here for the past 5 years. There's a slew of links in the description down below to previous works that I have created, published on DMsGuild.com. Check them out. We've been focusing our attention on Spelljammer, which is the setting that was released by Wizards of the Coast in August 2022. And we've been creating this supplement for the past year called Spelljammer Combat Exploration. It provides a ton of little ideas and basic simple rules to flesh out all the bits inside of Spelljammer for 5th edition that helps DMs create practical rulings as their campaign goes and does whatever it does off of its own rails. So one of the questions that has come up a lot in the subreddits on Reddit, Reddit/Spelljammer. Thanks a lot for being out there, guys, and for being interested in the work that I do and asking so many great questions. So one of the questions that crops up a lot is how should I deal with my spelljamming ship traveling across the surface of a planet? And how long should it take for my ship to leave orbit if, based on the size of the planet? Does that make a difference? These are great questions. Let's look at what Wizards of the Coast has actually published to address it and what we can do to dive deeper into that content. So as written here, while cruising through space, your daily movement speed is approximately 100 million miles per day or per 24 hours. And when you enter, dropping down here, you'll automatically slow to your flying speed when you come within 1 mile of something that weighs 1 or more tons, such as another ship, a space whale, or a planet. Your flying speed is, in the way that Wizards has written it, your flying speed is going based on what type of ship you're in. It's going to be somewhere between 30 feet and 70 feet per round, which is basically the speed of walking for a normal medium-sized creature, maybe up to the speed of a horse. So that is incredibly binary. If you're if there's nothing around you, it's 100 million miles per day. If you're within 1 mile of something of a ton or larger, you will slow to this walking speed until you're able to walk far enough away from it that you're over 1 mile away, at which point you return to your full travel speed between worlds of 100 million miles per day. That is incredibly binary. It's either you're close or you're not. And it's either walking speed or full tilt. So one of the things that we address in the book is making this more incremental instead of just binary by breaking down distance and time first. So a helm that can pilot a ship at 100 million miles per day can roughly break down to 10 million miles every 2 hours, which is approximately 100 million miles every 10 minutes. It breaks down to 100,000 miles per minute, or vaguely 10,000 miles every round. And if you are putting this on a battle grid, that means you're going to have, say, a map scale of 1,000 miles per square. If you have a 50-foot movement speed, but you're able to ramp up to 100 million miles per day, you can effectively move anywhere from a hover. The ships are capable of hovering, which means you can stand still, between 0 speed and 100 million miles per day. If you're breaking it down per round, it can be at most 10,000 miles per round. If you break that down into a grid, that's roughly 1,000 miles per square. But you could also break that down even further into smaller increments. 500 feet square for ranged combat. 50-foot square gets you close enough to be able to start engaging in close range combat. And then 5-foot scale is you could have creatures boarding ships between each other. So 1,000 mile square, a 1,000 mile square grid at a 10,000 miles per round can scale all the way down to just a 5-foot square, which is the movement speed that you would use if you're a walking human. And then say a movement speed of 50 feet, roughly the speed of a horse, or many of the spelljamming ships as presented in by Wizards of the Coast. That would scale to 5-foot square, 10 squares per round. That's 50 feet of movement. And then you can use that 10 square movement to extrapolate again up to the 10,000 miles per round. So using that logic, that breaks apart the binary movement speed into increments, and then those increments over time. Then there's the issue of being a binary of you're either close to an object or you're not. That is an arbitrary decision. If you remove that decision, then you could accidentally slam your ship into the side of a planet, or also known as crashing on a planet. Interesting though, the maximum falling speed in Dungeons and Dragons is 500 feet per round. So that is roughly 1 mile per minute. 5,000 feet is roughly 10 times 500 feet. 5,000 feet is roughly a mile of movement. So if you just turn off your engines when you enter atmosphere, you will eventually reach your destination of the planet within 1 minute. So that is an example of how you can ignore the 50-foot movement speed versus 100 million miles per day movement speed. There is an increment in between. So using that same logic, we can further break down moving within the surface of a planet. So looking at some quick, easy numbers here. If we are departing spherical gravity, depending on the size of the planet, and again, looking down here, we know that 10 miles is going to generally be the minimum size for an object to have a spherical gravity instead of a gravity plane. And that is a good basic rule that DMs can either decide something smaller than that has spherical gravity if they choose, or could also decide that something larger than 10 miles in scale has planar gravity. But this sets a base benchmark for, if you don't want to think about it, that's a very easy rule to follow. So taking that into consideration, if you're departing spherical gravity, if you're able to fly 10,000 miles per round, if the space that a object occupies is 10,000 miles or smaller, you're going to be able to leave that space within 1 round. For example, Toril, which is the planet on Forgotten Realms. Toril is approximately 8,000 miles in diameter. It occupies roughly a 10,000 mile space. So a ship capable of flying 10,000 miles per round would be able to go from the surface of the planet and burst out of gravity in as little as 1 round if you needed to. You could have a slower exit if you chose to. Again, you have incremental movement. You could move 1 mile per round. You could move 5 feet per round. You could just hover there. So this then helps us lean into the idea of traveling within spherical gravity of the world, since objects that occupy a space larger than 10 miles, like moons and planets, typically possess spherical gravity. When a smaller object enters the space of that object with spherical gravity, it naturally falls towards the object at their current speed, or 500 feet per round, whichever is faster, until it collides with the object, detailed in the collision section that we have in this book as well, up above. So while traveling within atmosphere of a planet generally doesn't impede the movement of spelljamming ships, but a ship moving too fast along the surface risks colliding with terrain or structures. If you're 500 feet above the surface of a planet and your ship zipping along trying to find a specific pub that you wanted to go drink at tonight, if you're flying at 1,000 miles per round, you're going to overshoot your target and slam probably into the side of a mountain and kill yourselves. So you have to scale your speed appropriate to what it is that you're attempting to engage with. So though movement isn't impeded, atmosphere limits visibility. If you fly faster than you can notice the space occupied by the destination, you can fly past it in a single round of movement. The range, and so we have a visibility chart here for encountering objects. It's part of the exploration chapter. And it's pretty simple. So there's, we'll skip a lot of the details because we specifically want to look at the detailed range here. So it says the range listed in the detailed column in the visibility table above provides the maximum speed a ship can travel per round without passing your destination as determined by the space occupied by the destination. For example, the city of Waterdeep occupies a 10-mile space. The maximum speed a ship can move without passing it is 100 miles per round. So if we're looking at Waterdeep, it occupies, the city of Waterdeep is larger than a mile in size. So the next increment that it would occupy would be a 10-mile square. So here we're looking at the object size, 10 miles, coincidentally also the Rock of Brawl for those that are interested. So the maximum scale that you can see any details of that object would be 100 miles, which means that you're not going to really see it until you're within 100 miles, which means if you're flying faster than 100 miles per round, you're just going to fly right past it, and you're going to have to do the turnaround and walk of shame back for overshooting your destination. Say a particular, so that speaks to detail. Waterdeep, the details of Waterdeep as a city at the 100-mile range, you're going to see vague details such as it's a landmass, it has a bay, it has farmland surrounding it. But as you close distance, you're going to be able to see closer and smaller details. A particular pub that occupies a 500-foot space can be approached no faster than 1 mile per round, or basically 10 squares on a 500-foot scale grid. So again, if it's 500 feet, you're going to be able to start making out details at around 1 mile. So you're within 1 mile of that structure. You're going to basically tell how many floors does it have? Does it have windows with lights in it? Is there a barn next to it? Is there movement? Is there activity going on around it? So if you're looking at Waterdeep at a distance at 100 miles, you're going to see, yeah, there's a city over there. That's what we want to approach. You will then slow your speed down the next round from 100 miles per round to, say, 10 miles per round, so that you can have a slower approach to the city. Waterdeep in particular requires that you land in the bay, out of the bay, and then float your ship in as a normal boat so that people aren't just falling from the sky and smashing into buildings and killing people. You want to have a designated parking zone, which they have as the bay where all the other normal boats park. So as you get closer to the object, you have to move at a slower speed so that you don't overshoot it, and so you can just see what it is that you're looking at so you know where to park. You can't go from the atmosphere at 10,000 miles per round and then hit a spot in your parking lot on a dime unless you make a piloting check with our really high DC, which we also discuss later on in the book. But this is a way for you to be able to easily navigate space within the atmosphere of a planet based on the size of the destination you're going to and the overall size. So once this book publishes, you'll be able to read all this stuff in the preview. If you think it's worth your time, consider picking it up. But again, we're just trying to create some practical answers to basic questions that come up during the course of a normal adventuring campaign. A lot of this stuff was covered in 2nd edition, but was kind of glossed over as something that a DM can just make a decision for. But a lot of DMs in 5th edition weren't familiar with 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, BECMI. They're new to the game and they need more guidance on how to create rulings that riff off of rules. So we provide a lot of those mechanics inside of this book so that you can start having a practical relationship with how can campaigns that deal with wild space in the Astral Sea function and feel fresh, fun, and have a lot of options open for you to be able to create new type of adventures. So if you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I stream artwork for this book 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, often on Saturday, and then we post content like this on Sundays to talk about the different mechanics inside of the game. Once it publishes, it will have descriptions for you down below. You can click through and check it out. Thanks a lot for checking this out. Hope to catch up with you soon. Thanks.